Good evening, all of you. I welcome you all to the ICANN initiative, the Hindu and Indian Express analysis. So, first of all, sorry for the late uploading of the video. I was up with some other important work. So, we will start the day with the story of the day. We'll be talking about the Loudspeaker School. So, this Loudspeaker School is in Jharkhand's Dumka district. So, because of the COVID crisis, the schools had to be shut down and children were staying back at home. And unlike the cities where online classes are conducted for children, the Jharkhand's district has been very backward, and the internet connectivity, the bandwidth, the broadband connectivity has been very poor in the region. And out of the 246 students who were there in this particular school, 204 students did not even have a mobile phone with them. So in the absence of internet connectivity and smartphone, these children were kind of deprived of education. So even when the teachers were ready to teach them during this period of lockdown where the children were back at home, the children did not have the opportunity to attend those online classes. So in such a case, what the headmaster of the school has done is he has ensured that loudspeakers were installed at some important locations across the village so that the children can get their lessons, daily lessons, from these loudspeakers. So these loudspeakers have been placed where the number of students are also more, so that they can attend to the classrooms. So every day 2-hour classes are being held by the teachers. So they give lectures from the main classroom and these students hear them out through the loudspeakers. And now this has been found to be very well reached out to by the students, and the students are also grasping the lessons very well. So students have been very receptive and they have been enjoying this new style of studying also. And the headmaster has been lauded for this, and the district education officer has applauded this and has also held that in various other government schools in the district also this model can be emulated. So what this whole story shows is that first is what is most important for one to serve the community, to serve the society, is the willingness to serve. So there is a popular saying which says that if you really want to do, you will find a way, otherwise you will find excuse. So that is very true, because if the headmaster didn't have the will to do it, he had all the reasons to, he had many reasons and he could have given those reasons that there is no connectivity and all that, and online classes cannot be held for children. So in this backward district of Jharkhand, these children from the backward communities would have been deprived of the educational opportunity, and they would have been backward with respect to education compared to the rest of the children of their age group. So but in this case, the headmaster came out with a way to address this gap and to bridge this gap and to enable education to be provided to these backward children. So it shows that where there is a will, there is definitely a way. You will find out the way if you really want to serve. So necessity is kind of it's a mother of invention, where the headmaster came out with an innovative method to enable education to the students. And it also shows the problem solving attitude, because there is a problem and there is a scarcity of resource, and but still to ensure that the ends are met even though the means may be different. So that is very important even for a public servant. Tomorrow the district faces a lot of problems, and for all these problems it may not be possible to have good amount of resources to find out the most advanced solutions. But at the same time, it is very important to keep the problem at side and to find out innovative ways and cost-effective ways to find a solution to this problem. So with this inspiring story, we will start the first topic of the day. Yeah, before that, we'll have a look at those articles which we have already covered previously. So diplomacy after Galvin and cautious but firm. So these were articles on India-China relations, and there was nothing new in them. Next, the crisis of hunger is about the public distribution system and the one nation, one ration card, again, which we have already discussed. The draft AIA norms, yesterday it was discussed in very detailed form in the Hindu. And death in the custody, the custodial death that happened in Tamil Nadu also we have discussed yesterday. And the role of PM Narasimha Rao also we have discussed yesterday. So these 6 editorials, there was nothing new in them, and just a repetition of what we have already covered. So now the first topic is regarding the Naga peace process. So Naga insurgency has been one of the, so to say, the long-lasting ones in the Northeast. Previously, among the Northeast issues, we have already discussed the Bodoland issue in detail on this platform. And now we will be looking at what is happening in the latest, what is the latest development with respect to the Naga peace process. So the static portion of this, which will form a part of your post-independence consolidation or a part of your GS paper 3 internal security issues, so that you will have to study the static portion. And I'm not covering the static portion here because I have given a question on the same, so we will be discussing that tomorrow. So the latest thing that has happened is that there are several insurgent groups among the Nagas. So the most active of that is the NSCN-IM. So it is the National Socialist Council of Nagalim Isakmova. That is one of the most prominent insurgent groups in the Northeast related to the Naga peace process. So what this insurgent group has is it has several armed gangs. It has its own armed militia, and these armed gangs are resorting to extortion and siphoning of funds which are meant actually for developmental activities in the region. So and they are saying that they are actually collecting taxes. So this forcible collection of money which is actually meant for carrying out developmental works in the region. So this is the latest episode with respect to the Naga insurgency. So these are actually illegal and forcible collections which are happening, and these are also hindering the developmental works in the Northeast. So the money which is meant for the development work is now being forcibly collected by these insurgent groups. So with respect to the steps that we have already taken, first is that Mr. Ravi was appointed as the interlocutor by the center in 2015 to act as an interlocutor between the center and the Naga insurgent groups so that a peace deal could be struck. Next, we have been trying to, and also with NSC and IM, we have the ceasefire agreement which has been there for the last more than 20 years. So this ceasefire agreement says that they are not going to be indulged in violent activities and they are going to give up their arms and violence in the region. So the ceasefire agreement is already there, and we have been also, the center has been trying to come out with this Naga peace accord, but however things have not been finalized. So this is because the violence in the region is still on, and in spite of the ceasefire agreement, these kinds of extortions and illegal collection of money from the people and violence in the region is still on. So this is the major issue, and even while the central government is trying to come out with a strike a peace deal or a Naga peace accord with these Naga insurgent groups, particularly the NSC and IM, with which the central government is holding talks regularly and is trying to strike a peace deal, it is observed that several of the demands of NSC and IM are not compatible and they cannot be accepted. For instance, NSC and IM demands that it wants a separate flag, it needs a separate constitution, and for the state of Nagaland itself, they need a separate flag and a separate constitution. So this demand is untenable and it cannot be accepted by the government. Also, the next thing it says, this NSC and IM and various other insurgent groups active in the region, they have their own administrative and paramilitary structure. So they are actually running a parallel administrative and paramilitary structure in the region, and these groups are not ready to dismantle these parallel structures that they are already operating. So that is the reason why the amount that these groups are collecting forcibly, they are terming it as taxes, but we are terming it as extortion from the money that has been allocated for the development work. So they are running a parallel administrative structure which they are not ready to dismantle. Also, one more important issue has been the core ideology of the Greater Nagalim. So Greater Nagalim, NAGALIM. So Greater Nagalim has been one of the most contentious issues. The Naga insurgent groups, particularly the NSC and IM, wants a Greater Nagalim to be created, which will be the sole land for the Nagas. But this Greater Nagalim will comprise of portions from the neighboring states of Nagaland also. So this is going to hurt the territorial integrity of the neighboring states, of Nagaland. At the same time, it also has some regions of Myanmar also. So Greater Nagaland has some regions from Myanmar also, and Myanmar is a completely another sovereign country. So we cannot, the creation of Greater Nagaland is not at all possible, because that will violate the sovereignty of an independent sovereign country of Myanmar. So that itself is that is also not possible, and this demand also cannot be met. So due to all these reasons, the Naga insurgency has been the most active and also the unresolved insurgency till date, and measures are being taken to solve this through having negotiations with these insurgent groups. But however, the insurgency is still on. So this was the latest about the Naga peace process. Now we will go to, which is the Israel-Palestine issue. So Israel-Palestine issue is also a part of the world history that we study as part of GS1, and how Israel was created, and how Israel has been occupying the territories of Palestine illegally, and this has driven out the Palestinian people from their land, and it has created a lot of refugee crisis, and refugees migrating from the region, and violation of the human rights of these refugees. They've been deprived of the basic human rights of dignity. All of that issue has been there. So in this context, the latest development has been that Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has now announced that it is going to annex the occupied areas of West Bank. So West Bank is basically it belongs to Palestine. So, but however, Israel was in occupation of several territories of West Bank. So now Israel is saying that all those territories of West Bank, which was occupied by Israel, are now going to be annexed properly. So in occupation is different, but annexation is completely different. So Israel was in illegal occupation of the territories of West Bank, but now these territories are going to be annexed, which will make this occupation more complete. So annexation is a forcible acquisition of the territory of another country. So this is precisely what Israel has announced, that it is going to annex the territories which Israel had already occupied in West Bank, which is actually a part of Palestine. So this gives rise to various issues when it comes to the Israel-Palestine conflict. The first thing is that this whole annexation, which is, as I said, it's a forcible acquisition of territory of another country. It is against international law. So this violates the international law, and even the International Court of Justice and the Office of Human Rights Commissioner for the Human Rights at the United Nations, they have all told that this forcible annexation is against the international law, it is against the norms of the Geneva Conventions, and it is a violation of the United Nations Charter. But still Israel is going ahead, and it has even in the past has had illegal occupation of the Palestinian territories. So this has been completely against the international law. The second important issue that Israel's intervention in Palestine in the past has given rise to is it has led to a blatant human right violation of the Palestinian people. So Israel has been conducting raids on the Palestinian territories. It has been using force on them. So it has led to the killing of a large number of Palestinian people. So several of them have been deprived of all the basic amenities of life. They are undergoing starvation. The children have been deprived of basic education. This has led to a mass refugee crisis. They have been trying to move out of that place. So they have lost their own country. So they are not being able to live peacefully in their own country. So this has led to a blatant violation of the human rights of the Palestinians. So this is the second most important issue that this has given rise to. And the third thing is, now if we say that Israel tomorrow annexes the occupied areas of West Bank, it will be like two people will be living in the same place, that is West Bank, and they will be ruled by the same state, that is Israel, but with unequal rights. So the Israelis living in West Bank will enjoy all the rights, but the Palestinians living in the West Bank will be deprived of rights. So it will be two people living in the same place, ruled by the same state, but they will enjoy unequal rights. So this is said to be the 21st century apartheid. So this is a kind of situation that this whole thing is going to create. So this is the third issue that this has given rise to. The fourth is that, as I was just saying, that Israel has been doing all these things for many years now, but still the international community has not made Israel as a country accountable to its actions in Palestine. So for its blatant violation of the human rights of the Palestinians, and for it to not consider the sovereignty of a country, and for doing all these things, Israel has never been held accountable. It has an implicit support from the United States, and several United Nations resolutions also have not been supported by the United States against Israel. So whenever any resolution is introduced in the United Nations against Israel, then that will be vetoed by US, and it won't be taken up at all. So Israel has not been held accountable for its blatant violation of human rights and its actions in Palestine. So there is this lack of accountability, and Israel has come to have been in this culture of impunity because its actions and its whatever it is doing in Palestine have not been called for action by the international community. So there is no accountability on part of Israel, and this is a very important pointer to the failure of international institutions like the United Nations, which have not been able to resolve the conflict between Israel and Palestine, and has not been able to hold Israel accountable and also tell Israel not to indulge in these actions. So it also shows the failure of United Nations. In fact, whenever we are analyzing the success and failure of United Nations, this is one of the most important failures of United Nations, that the Israel-Palestine conflict is still unresolved and Israel is not held accountable for its misgivings in Palestine. So this is one of the biggest failures of United Nations. So this is another important issue that this whole crisis is giving rise to. And the fifth issue is that people belonging to any country, they have the right of national self-determination, which means that they have the right to decide which country or which nationality they would want to belong to. So this right of national self-determination has been now deprived for the Palestinian people for several decades now. So this right of the national self-determination has been deprived, and international community has not done anything with respect to this. So the right of national self-determination has been deprived for the Palestinian people. This is the fifth issue that this has given rise to. So in all this, what is the role that India has been playing? For India, Israel is a strategic partner, and for India, Israel is one of the three most important countries from which we get our defense imports. So that being United States, Russia, and Israel. So Israel, we are dependent on Israel for a lot of our defense imports. So therefore, Israel is in that manner is a strategic partner for us, and our dependence on Israel for defense has been too much. So there, Israel in that way is a very important country. But however, we have also always empathized with the Palestinian people. Even before India won her own independence, we have always supported the cause of the Palestinian people. So that has been our principled support to the cause of independence of Palestinian people. So on the one hand is our dependence on Israel, and Israel being our strategic partner and crucial defense imports that India gets from Israel. And on the other hand has been India's principled support to the cause of independence of Palestine, even before India's own independence. So now between these two, it's like walking on a tightrope for India, that it is difficult to balance these two for India. And we have also supported all the UNSC and General Assembly resolutions that have been supportive of Palestine cause. We have always supported Palestine at the United Nations, so that is also there. So therefore, it is always said that there has to be a de-hyphenation of our policy. That is, on the one hand, we must continue to have good relations with Israel and continue to share that strategic depth and strategic dimension of a relation with Israel. But on the other hand, this strategic relation with Israel should not shy us away from having this supporting the cause of independence of Palestine. So there has to be a de-hyphenation of relation, while that is our support to the cause of Palestinian independence should be completely independent of our relations with Israel. So this de-hyphenation of policy has always been called, that is decoupling of these two things. So looking at these two things as two independent things and not allowing the one to shadow the other. So this has to be our way forward, is what has been suggested. The next topic, which is the custodial deaths. Again, this we have seen yesterday, that in Tamil Nadu jail, a father and the son, they have died in the custody. They had been arrested for running some business beyond the permitted hours during the lockdown. So now they have died in the custody. So this has given rise to the importance of police reforms, prison reforms, and also the importance of protection of human rights of people who are in custody. So another most important dimension in this, yesterday while I was discussing that issue, I also told about a few way forward which have been suggested by commissions like NHRC and second ARC and even the National Police Commission. They have suggested that the role of NHRC and SHRC should be increased in this regard, and whenever any custodial death happens, then it has to be informed to the NHRC and SHRC within 24 or 48 hours, and there has to be surprise inspections and surprise visits by these to the jail conditions to ascertain if the inmates, the prison mates, are having a very safe and dignified prison life. So all these way forward we have spoken about yesterday, and one more important way forward is that India has to ratify the United Nations Convention Against Torture. So this has been a long-standing demand, which even the National Human Rights Commission has also called for, that we need to sign the we have already signed this United Nations Convention Against Torture way back in 1997, but we have not ratified this. So the demand has been that we need to ratify this, and this demand has been made by even the Law Commission report, and we have already had some two official bills on the bringing about a separate law regarding torture, against torture, and we had a private member bill for law against torture, but none of this actually held. They all got lapsed, and even today we have not ratified the United Nations Convention Against Torture. So another way forward is that we need to ratify this. In fact, India is among just a handful of countries who have not yet ratified the UN CAT. So that is very important, and there is what is called as a national campaign against torture. So this national campaign against torture had released a report in June, which this report mentions that in the year 2009 itself, more than 1,700 people had died in custody. So this shows that custodial torture and the custodial death is more in India, is prevalent, and therefore we need to take measures against this. So the first thing that we need to do is to ratify this UN CAT Convention Against Torture. The second thing is we need to bring about a domestic law against torture. So as I said, two official bills and a private member bills have lapsed in this regard. So we urgently need to bring about a legislation against the torture. Even the Law Commission has suggested that we need to bring about a law against torture, but this has not been possible. This is one thing we have to do. And as far as UN CAT is concerned, even China and Pakistan have ratified this convention. So it is very important that India, which is among just a few countries which remain to ratify this convention, it's very important that we ratify this convention. So these two form an important way forward when we are writing about custodial deaths. So one is ratifying the UN CAT convention and then bringing about a domestic law related to this. And I think I have missed out a slide which was about India and Bhutan relation. So nothing much, there was only one point in this. So India has now signed an agreement with Bhutan for development of Kolongchu project. So it is KHOLONGCHHU. So Kolongchu project is a 600 megawatt hydropower project and India has signed an agreement with Bhutan for joint development of this project. So this is going to be the first joint venture project that India and Bhutan will together start, and this is going to be on a 50-50 joint venture. So it is not a government to government agreement, it is rather a 50-50 joint venture project for development of Kalongchu 600 megawatts hydropower project. And this project is also coming up in Bhutan's less developed eastern region. So it is going to bring electricity to that region and lead to better development of this less developed eastern region. And this whole thing, it points to India's commitment to help Bhutan to create 10,000 megawatts of installed capacity by 2020. So India had committed to help Bhutan to create this total of 10,000 megawatts of installed capacity by 2020, and this whole thing points to this project signing of this agreement points to we fulfilling this commitment. And this project is supposed to be completed by 2025. So this is the latest development in the India-Bhutan relations. So now we will look at few tips for the ethics paper. So the other day, in the previous 2 weeks, we have discussed one case study in detail, and we have also seen how to handle a quote-based question from the section A part of the paper. So now I'll be giving you general tips as to how you can prepare for the section A part of your ethics syllabus. And I'll be telling you exactly what I followed for my preparation. At the outset, let me make it clear that I did not follow any so-called textbook for preparing ethics. So neither lexicon nor I don't even know the names of other books which are usually followed. So I have not read any book for ethics paper, and so I will share my strategy with you for preparing section A of ethics paper. So first of all, if you go through the previous year question papers, you will notice that usually there are some 5 to 6 types of questions which are being asked. So one type of that, the first type is the direct question that is asked on a term or a terminology that is already given in your GS4 syllabus. For instance, what is attitude, what is transparency and accountability, what is emotional intelligence. So these are the topics which are directly given in the syllabus, and you are asked to write on that. So first of all, they will just ask what is the term, what is attitude, or what is transparency, accountability, etc. And then the next half of the question will be how can it be developed, or how does it influence a public servant, how does it help a public servant, how it helps in taking ethical decisions. So these are some of the second half of the question that is being asked. So first you have to learn to write whenever something is asked related to the direct term given in the syllabus. So the way to prepare is make a list of some 50 such common terms. So if you look at various institutes this list of terminologies, you will find hundreds of them, but it is nearly impossible to learn these hundreds and make use of all these 100 terms in your exam. So choose the 50 most important ones which you feel, and then make a list of them. And once you write these terms, next you have to write a very simplified definition of these terms in your own words. I don't mean that you should not even Google to know the definition of a term. You can do that, but don't copy the same definition into your notes. So you have to simplify it multiple times, and it has to be such that even a small kid can understand what you're writing. So that is a key to writing the ethics answer, and your definition, what you are writing about that term, has to be very simple. If it says attitude or emotional intelligence, your definition should be understood even by a school-going child. So that is how it should be. Simplify this definition or make your own definition from whatever your basic understanding of what it is, and then write it down. And then you have to collect examples which are which you can find in the newspapers, like how we are doing now from the stories of the day or personality of the day. From there you can get a lot of examples, and even for ethics examples itself from newspapers, we are collecting a lot of them. So these examples will help you in dealing with how these qualities are displayed in the real life situations. And next is your own example. So you have to think of situations where you have displayed when you have been accountable, when you have been very transparent about something, when you have displayed honesty and integrity, when you have displayed emotional intelligence. So you have to think about examples from your own life where you have displayed particular quality. So like this you have to do for all these 50 keywords. So this will help you tackle any question that is asked directly from the syllabus with the help of these keywords. The second type of question that is usually asked is based on some ethics related keywords. So it can be like what is environmental ethics, or what is war ethics, what is bioethics, or something which is related to the ethics. So ethics based keywords are usually asked in the second type of the questions. So here again you should not complicate, you should adopt the same approach, and you should write your own simple definition. For example, if environmental ethics is asked, so you know what ethics is, you know what environment is, so you must be able to write some 5 quick points related to what environmental ethics is. So environmental ethics would definitely talk about sustainable development, and that you should not over exploit the resources. You should ensure that the environmental deterioration or degradation doesn't happen, and then you have to go for protection of the environment. So like that, some quick 3-4 points you must be able to write when it comes to environmental ethics. And trust me, that is all what is required, because this is your simple basic understanding of what environmental ethics is. So with this basic understanding, you have to frame your answer of what environmental ethics is. So if you write some quick 5 points, then it is very easy for the examiner also to evaluate that. And then you can go in detail about some issues about displacement versus environment and development. And so environmental ethics means there will be so many things, like for example, killing of animals, meat eating, or maybe even conducting drug trials on animals. Is that ethical or not? So there are various issues on vaccine trials on animals. So there are various such environmental issues, construction of a dam or a project which will lead to displacement of people or wildlife, submergence of forests. So these are the various environmental ethics issues that you can think about, and then you can in detail think about what will be the ethical considerations in each of these issues. But the biggest question comes is, how do you find out what you have to work upon? Like now I said environmental ethics. Similarly, you can have a question on war ethics, you can have a question on so many things. So how will you come across all these things? For that, what I did is to look at the previous year's questions and also look at the questions from various institutes of their test series questions. So you can get so many questions from the test series of so many institutes, and you can use these questions to brainstorm. So this was the best strategy that I adopted, and rather I would say that rather than studying from the syllabus, I went backwards from studying from these questions. So I would look at the questions. So let's say if you spend 30 minutes every day, you should be able to brainstorm a good 2 to 3 questions. So even if I say 10 minutes per question, so you take a question, brainstorm whatever you feel, whatever you get, you just jot it down, you just scribble it. And then if suppose I have a question on emotional intelligence, let's say, so I will quickly write what my understanding of emotional intelligence and how it helps for a civil servant, all that my understanding I will write about emotional intelligence. Then quickly I will browse through for 1 to 2 good quotations on emotional intelligence. So that will help me in doing it. So once I do this in 10 to 12 minutes, my whole emotional intelligence topic itself is prepared, because I have targeted one terminology today and I have dealt with the content of that, and I have also quickly browsed through 1 to 2 quotations which I will be able to write when emotional intelligence is asked. So similarly, any stories related to emotional intelligence that I come across in the newspaper, I will quickly add to this sheet, so that everything related to emotional intelligence is at one place for me. So similarly, every day if you start brainstorming 2 to 3 questions, so many of these things will get covered in that only. So first of all, your brain starts functioning, and then secondly, when you are going this way, you will be exposed to a lot of questions, and when you see such questions in your exam, you are not really puzzled as what should I write now, and you have good quotes and good stories and collection of examples for each of these terminologies. So every day if you brainstorm at least two questions, and if you prepare for that, so that is how I did it. And so similarly, if you come to the third type of questions, it will be about some practical observations. So practical observations means what is corruption, why is there corruption in India, what is anger, when do we it's a negative emotion, so what leads to negative emotions. So all of these, the practical observations that you see. So here again, first you have to write your practical examples, your own life examples, and the practical scenario that you see. So that is very important in this. And next type of questions will be the quote based questions, which we have already seen how we have to handle that. So like that, there will be some 4 to 5 type of questions which you can based on that you can decide your preparation strategy. But the bottom line is, what you have to remember is, every day you have to brainstorm some amount of questions and some number of questions, and then prepare on them. So keep your quotations, keep your examples ready for each this. So follow this strategy and make table and prepare your examples. And then whenever you are writing any answer, you have to write the corresponding keywords. So writing keywords is very important in ethics answer. So for example, this keywords is example not just in the section A but also in the section B. So don't ever forget to add keywords, ethical keywords to your answer. So even if you have a case study saying, now suppose if I listen to my superior and just follow, and if I don't stand up to the mistake or the corruption that is going on in front of me, it will lead to cognitive dissonance for me. So that cognitive dissonance is a keyword. And if this precedent is set, then it will lead to ethical erosion. Ethical erosion is another keyword. Then servitude, compassion, all these keywords, that these 50 keywords that you have made a list of, and you have understood the definition of it and collected examples. These 50 keywords, make sure that you use it in your answers both in section A and section B. So these keywords only make a difference between a generalistic answer or the one which looks more ethics like. So the use of keywords is very important, and this doesn't come on the day of exam. So when you're brainstorming your answers, specifically think of the keywords that you can use in this answer, and then start writing those keywords, so that your brain is trained to use keywords when you write the answers. And the next thing is application of a few prominent thinkers. So even thinker based questions are asked, like John Rawls was asked, Gandhiji was asked. So like that, some thinker based questions are asked. But at the same time, you can't endlessly go behind thinkers, collecting their ideas, what they said and all that. So at max, prepare for 10 thinkers, 5 foreign and 5 Indian, let's say, and then prepare them thoroughly, what their idea was and what is the relevance of their ideas in the current day world for you and for the society in general. What is the relevance of their ideas? So this, when thinkers you are preparing, you should also be able to use them in your answers. So even the last time when we were discussing a case study, I had read this quotation about Swami Vivekananda, that worship of Jiva is service of Jiva is worship of Shiva. So just you must be able to use it even when you're writing your case studies, when you're writing your section A answers. So you must be able to use these thinkers only when Swami Vivekananda is asked, I will write this line about Swami Vivekananda, that he believed in servitude and all that. Not like that, but even otherwise, you must be able to use the ideas of these thinkers in various parts of your answers. So apart from the keywords, using the ideas of thinkers in your answers is very important. So this you have to do. And then whatever answer you are writing, you have to be more practical about it. Don't be very utopian and don't be very idealistic, but rather be practical. At the same time, adhere to your principles. Don't allow them to get diluted. Adhere to your principles of honesty, integrity or whatever, but at the same time write a practical answer which can be followed in the field, and not a very ideal and utopian answer. So this is very important because if you are writing ideal answers, no matter how nice it sounds, and if it is not practical, then you won't fetch marks. So keeping the answer practical at the same time morally, ethically strong is very important. So this is one thing that you have to keep in your mind. So as and when we discuss more ethics related question, I'll keep giving more tips. So that's it for regarding the ethics tips. So today's question will be discuss reasons for the Naga insurgency and suggest a way forward. It's a 10-mark question for 150 words. And that's it for today. Thank you.